She laughed at a wedding and said, "Being married to him doesn't count because he's boring." So I silently ended everything that night and watched her entire world collapse. At a wedding we attended, my wife Olivia spent the entire evening dancing with her male best friend, Ben, while pretending I barely existed. She didn't just dance with him. She laughed loudly, touched his arm, and made it clear to everyone watching that he was the one she wanted attention from. Then, as if that wasn't enough, someone in the group pointed to her wedding ring and jokingly asked if she and Ben were married. Instead of correcting them, instead of pointing out that her husband was standing just a few feet away, she put on a fake laugh and said, "Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring." Everyone chuckled, but that small moment said more than 1,000 fights ever could. It was cruel. It was public. And worst of all, it was honest. The next morning, she woke up in a hotel bed alone. That was the moment our marriage ended. No screaming. No schatterplats. No late-night explosive arguments. It ended with a laugh, her laugh. A sharp, empty, mocking sound that echoed across a ballroom full of strangers and stripped away any illusion that we were still a couple. I'm Tom, and Olivia, my wife of 4 years, is now my ex-wife. From the outside, our life probably looked like a dream. We had a nice house, good cars, and the kind of lifestyle people smile at on social media. But beneath that glossy exterior, the foundation was crumbling. I had known for a while, a year at least. I had seen the signs, the way she spoke less to me and more to him, the subtle shift in how she compared every decision I made with what Ben would have done. I tried to convince myself that I was imagining it, that being trusting made me strong. But over time, trust started to feel like foolishness. I remember the turning point clearly. About 8 months ago, we were planning our anniversary trip. I had spent weeks carefully researching a remote cabin in the mountains, the kind of place that once meant something to us, a place where we could reconnect without distractions. When I showed her the photos, she barely reacted. The next day, she came to me with a different plan. Not her plan, but Ben's. He suggested a flashy coastal resort, and suddenly that was the only option that mattered. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a decision already made without me. We ended up at that resort, and I spent 4 days watching my wife send photos of the ocean to another man instead of sharing those moments with me. That's when I realized I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a placeholder, a reliable background character in the story she preferred to live with other people. From that moment, I quietly began to plan. I'm not a man who yells or makes dramatic scenes. That's Olivia's territory. I am a planner, a thinker, and so I built my escape, brick by brick. I contacted a lawyer, learned my rights, and moved my money into new accounts. The house was safely in my name, bought long before I knew her, and I made sure to protect everything else. I knew the day would come when I would need this plan, and that wedding became the trigger. That night, watching her laugh with Ben, watching her publicly belittle me to strangers, I felt no explosion of rage, just cold clarity, a sense of finality that was both crushing and liberating. I gave her a small nod from across the room, a gesture she probably mistook as me being attentive. But it wasn't that. It was my quiet goodbye. Without another word, I walked out of that ballroom and went upstairs to our hotel room. By the time she looked for me, it was already too late. The first thing I did was remove my wedding ring. I placed it on the dresser and stared at it, realizing it had become a costume for a role I no longer believed in. Then I packed my bag. Every movement was calm, precise, almost mechanical. I wasn't reacting out of emotion. I was executing a procedure I had been preparing for months. I checked out of the hotel alone, got into my car, and drove home in silence. That drive was the most peaceful 40 minutes I had felt in over a year. When I arrived, I went straight to work. I deleted her access from our smart home system, changed the garage code, and locked her out of the place that had always been mine. Then I logged into our joint bank account, transferred every cent to my private account, and froze the credit card she had been using like her own personal purse. Within an hour, the life she took for granted was gone. I spent the night packing her belongings into boxes. Every dress, every shoe, every bottle of expensive perfume she had scattered across the bathroom vanity. By the time I was done, 42 boxes sat neatly in the garage, waiting for movers to take them to a storage unit I paid 3 months on. At 3 in the morning, I sent my lawyer a 2-word email, "File it." For the first time in a year, I slept without the weight of pretending. The next day, the calls started. At first, she thought I had just left for work, then anger, then panic. By noon, she was screaming into her phone on my front porch, begging me to unlock the door. I answered calmly, told her I had heard every word she said at the wedding, and that she was free now. Free of her boring husband, free of his boring house. She cried, denied, claimed it was a joke, but I was done. Her things were packed. The money was gone. The divorce papers were on their way. Ben tried to play hero, of course. He postured for my security cameras, tried the doors, even threw his shoulder at the front door like he was in some cheap action movie. But none of it mattered. They could no longer touch my life. And when Olivia tried to spin the story, painting me as a controlling, jealous husband who couldn't handle her friendship with Ben, I was ready. Because I had proof. A 10-second video, filmed by a wedding guest, capturing her laughing and telling everyone her marriage didn't count, because I was boring. I sent that clip to the people who mattered, her parents, her friends, and most importantly, Ben's girlfriend. Within hours, their carefully crafted lies collapsed. The fallout was swift and brutal. Olivia's parents, obsessed with their reputation, cut her off completely. Ben's girlfriend not only left him but exposed him publicly, posting the video online and detailing the years of betrayal. His career, built on networking and trust, fell apart overnight. Olivia, stripped of support and money, ended up waiting tables to pay rent on a shared apartment with strangers. Meanwhile, I sold the house, bought myself a downtown condo, and built a quiet, honest life that was entirely mine. Olivia called me boring. Maybe she was right, but if boring means peaceful nights, a home that's truly mine, and freedom from a marriage built on lies, then I'll choose boring every single time. Because while she was busy laughing at me in a ballroom full of strangers, I was quietly writing the ending to our story. And when the curtain fell, she was the one standing alone in the dark. If you enjoyed this story of betrayal, revenge, and quiet strength, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories that hit just as hard.